Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to today's installment of Created for More, the podcast. I am excited as always to be here. I have an exciting guest, exciting twice in one sentence, but let's just let that slide. I've got the amazing Funke Adeaga, and she is someone I have looked up to. So this is such a privilege, by the way. I'll stop. I will just pause my reading of her bio by just saying, I know her as Pastor Funke. She influenced me a lot, particularly in my younger years when I was part of a church called Jesus House in London before I got married, single, all sorts. So Pastor Funke was one of the people that, I'd look up to. I just loved her style. She's such an elegant lady. Oh my gosh. For you guys watching the video, you'll be able to see, but for you on the podcast, take my word for it. Absolutely amazing, very, very high standards, and she's just such a beautiful soul, and I'm just glad to be able to share her with yourselves. And I'll just read her bio really, really quickly. Funke Adeaga holds 2 bachelor's degrees in history and law, and after completing a law degree, she commenced her early career in the finance sector, but later pursued her dream of establishing J. Safira, a unique establishment which designed and manufactured ladies' shirts. So I'll just kind of give you the quick highlights. She's, like I said, she's a member of the leadership team in our local church for about 26 years, Jesus House, and she currently oversees the women's mentoring, take note, mentoring scheme within the church. She is all that and more. She wrote a book called Because Manners Matters, which is an expression for her passion for etiquette, and she regularly runs etiquette workshops. I will let you introduce yourself. Welcome to the show, but I will let you introduce yourself in a much better way than I could ever do. But thank you so much for being here, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Tonbra. Thank you. It's a privilege, and thank you for asking me to come. I really do appreciate it. And like you said, I've known you for a long time. And I've always remembered you as a very sweet person. And you're so sweet.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Thank you. And really, I've been following you since, and you're doing an awesome job. So well done. Well
thank you. It means a lot. It means the world. Thank you so much. So I want you to introduce yourself. Let us know who you are beyond what I've just read. Who are you? I always ask this question. I always say, what is the essence of you? So I make you sound a bit more dramatic.
Well, I think I'm someone who is, I don't want to start about, I'm a wife, a mother, and all of that. Yes, I'm all of that. But I'm actually more passionate about women maximizing their potential, women developing themselves, women being more than they think they are. Because a lot of us, we shy away from expressing ourselves. And now this is me saying it because I'm a very reserved person. But in the last few months, years, I've come out of my shell.
You have.
So I always say that if I can do it, you can all do it. But what would help, and which is why I'm, when you said I should come and talk about our topic for today, I didn't even hesitate, because it's something I'm passionate about. Mentoring does help. It helps once you have someone that can hold your hand, so to speak. Okay, I guess what you can say, it's my passion.
It's your passion. Tell us a little bit also about the etiquette side of you. Like, has that always featured in your life since you were young?
Oh gosh, it has always been there from when I was at a young age. But what got me really started on this was when I always tell this story. So when we were young, my parents used to say, particularly my mother, if you're at the dining table and you want to leave, always say, "May I be excused?" But this particular day, I don't know what happened to me. We had guests and I wanted to leave. Instead of me to say, "May I be excused?" I just said, "I'm bellyful. Can I?" I don't know if the listeners will know what that means. When you just mean that my tummy is full. You can imagine what happened. African parents.
She didn't take
She
it
didn't
easy
do
at
anything when the
all.
guests were there. But when they left, my goodness, yeah. Just imagine, I'll leave it to your imagination. And after that day, I just became very particular about etiquette. It's just the little things. And you know, when we talk about etiquette, people always think it's this rules and regulations, but it's really, if I was going to define etiquette, I would say it's about respect and consideration. Respect for yourself and respect and consideration for other people. In a nutshell, that's what etiquette is about, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And I love what I like about it is that it's not something that it's not something that you would normally, it's usually stumble on, particularly in our own side, in our side of the our world where we are from. You know, it's not something that people will people are big on generally. You know, we just think, "Oh, what is etiquette?" You know, maybe in the West, yes, but not where we're from.
No.
So, what was that like for you? Just venturing. At what point did you realize that this is something that I have to share with the world more broadly than just something that I do for myself?
When I started noticing, you know, it's amazing. What other people may not notice, I will notice. So let me give you an example. If a man is dressed nicely, but you know, sometimes when you hang trousers and you don't straighten it, so the crease is there, I will notice that, and some other person may not notice it. And you know, I keep thinking, why didn't you just take the time to iron your trousers? You know, but even when we go out and the way people eat, you know, I'm always watching things. I might say to a friend of mine, "Did you notice that?" And she's like, "What?" Like, I noticed it. You know, it's all those little things that I just thought, okay, I noticed these things. I can't assume that other people know about it. Just that's how it started. Really, just to help people to.
And how receptive have people been? How receptive have people been to it? Just learning about it.
Generally, a lot of people are more receptive, but it's interesting. I had a conversation with someone not too long, I think it was last year, and this person said to me, "You know, this etiquette thing that you do you know that it's all slave mentality?" I was like, "What?" Yeah.
Wow. Ignorance.
Ignorance,
Wow.
Exactly. I said, no. In fact, because the person I was speaking to was a Christian, I said, it's biblical. You know, showing respect. Even when you read the Bible, how God was so particular about details. It's not just, it's not a slave mentality. You know, it's something that we call, even, I mean, forget about even the Bible. When we think about years, I mean, many years ago, the way even our parents would tell us, this is how you do things. You know, this is how you greet. This is how you greet your elders. Those are all etiquette.
I love it because I'm always looking for value for my listeners. I want you to give us, just before we go into the main topic, maybe 2 or 3 things that, you know, we possibly haven't considered, but we should. You know, it's something that's probably not broadly taught, but we should consider going forward.
Okay, with regards to etiquette, okay, let me just say, because a lot of people may not be aware. So when you go out to eat, the challenge is people are saying, "Oh, there are lots of cutleries. Which one should I use? I'm not sure." The thing to remember is you walk your way from outside inward. So if you're going to have, for example, soup as the first course, the soup spoon will always be to your right, and it will be the first item there, the first cutlery there. If you're going to have salad, it will be the salad, fork, and knife on your left-hand side. So of course, the fork is also the left, and the knife to the right. So you walk your way out inwards. That way, if you remember that, then you can't go wrong.
Oh, I love that. You've heard that. Exclusive. Thank you so much for that. So I want to talk about mentoring, because I know that it's something that is, as you've said already, huge on your heart. It's a passion of yours. I mean, first of all, before we even kind of go in, first of all, how did you get into that line? How did you get to leading? Even before you lead, I guess you must have shown something that made people feel like that would be a right fit for you.
Well, it's interesting, because that's what I always say to a lot of people. We all mentor. It's just that we're not aware that we're mentoring. And because a lot of it is informal. So when we say, if you say, oh, Tonbra, you're a mentor, you might say, no, I'm not. I don't have any particular, I'm sure, I know you do anyway. But some people will say, I don't mentor. But we all mentor one way or the other. Parents mentor their children and, husband and wife and friends. But with regards to how I got started, I was running the women's ministry at Jesus House then. And I used to mentor a lot of, well, I'm actually not mentor, I used to speak to a lot of young ladies. And I remember one day I'd finished speaking to this lady, or whilst we were having a conversation rather, she said to me, I wish my mother had taught me these things. And it was just a light bulb moment. I was like, wow, I'm sure there are lots of people in church or out there who will want a sister to come alongside them just to help them. Because, we make a lot of assumptions. Even with my children, I make assumptions that they know. But not everyone. We always make that assumption. So it was after that I founded the Esther's Mentoring Scheme. And yeah, that's how we got started. It was just wanting to help younger ladies. And but of course, when we started, we have younger ladies, even people my age, in the mentoring scheme.
Oh, wow.
It was just a sisterhood.
Okay, so let's talk about mentoring. What is it? You say it's something that we probably all do. Obviously I know what it is, but I'm going to pretend I'm a listener that doesn't have a clue. So what is it? What is mentoring in the right sense of the word? And what are some perversions of mentoring?
Okay, let me try and give you my definition of what mentoring is. I mean, there are lots of definitions of mentoring. If you're in the secular world, it has a different definition, because what usually happens in the secular world is that you're assigned a career mentor, for example. Someone who will help you to advance the career.
Yes, in the career ladder. Yeah.
So you have mentors at workplaces. But the definition I love to use for mentoring is that mentoring is a dynamic, intentional relationship of trust, where one person who you call the mentor comes alongside another person, the mentee, to help that person to develop and maximize their potential. Now, that is very important because we all have potential. Tonbra, I'm sure you know. Every single person that we come across, you will created with potential in seed form. But a lot of times we don't even know that we have those things. So someone comes alongside you and helps you, to encourage you, to help you maximize the potential. That is what mentoring is in a nutshell. Yeah. So it's yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just saying it's somebody coming alongside with
let me say
intentionality. Yes.
Shall I explain that before you go on? A lot of times, especially where we come from, when you say someone is a mentor, you see, mentoring, the way I always try to explain is, if I'm mentoring you, we're walking alongside, we're walking together. You're not in front of me, I'm not in front of you. I'm not saying, okay, follow me, or I'm not saying go ahead. I'm walking, we are doing, that's the key one, we are doing life together. Now, I will be more experienced, right? But I don't want to lord it over you. So I invite you, I say, Tonbra, let's do life together. I have a bit of experience in this or that, and I'll show you. But I'm not trying to lord it over you. I'm not hoping that you pick up the things that I've learned along the way. And then after a while, you too, I always say that mentoring, it's a circle where at any point in time, you're either a mentor or a mentee. So you're mentoring someone is mentoring you, and then your circle continues.
I like that. I really, really like that. The fact that you're walking alongside each other. That is not what we normally see.
I know.
That's not what we normally see. We see someone who, and this is a lot of interpretations, including how I see it in some regard. It's almost as if you have gone ahead. And maybe I feel almost as if that's almost a selection criteria for picking a mentor. You will often hear people say, you find somebody who has gone in the direction that you're going to, who represents what you want to be, and then tag along, and they kind of show you the ropes, and mentors help you shorten the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So what would you say to that in the context of what you've said along the side, like you're meant to be alongside the person?
There are different types of mentoring. So for example, there's peer-to-peer mentoring, which they sometimes call one side-by-side mentoring. So a friend of mine can mentor me because we have the same values, but maybe she's doing something that I'm not doing currently. So we mentor each other and we exchange ideas and things like that. There's also group mentoring. But in terms of what you said, everything you said is true about a mentor. Maybe you've gone alongside, so you've gone further than I have. But still, it doesn't matter whether you've gone further ahead than I have. You're not. The key is, don't lord it over me. Don't say, oh, because I've done this and you haven't, then you don't know anything. Just do what I tell you. That's not it. It's not just do what I tell you. It is, let's do life together. I'll show you the ropes. I'll show you what I've done, how I got to where I am. But I'm not lording it over you. I'm not saying this is how it must be done. Because just because it worked for me in this particular area, it doesn't mean that it'll work the same way for you. Doing life together, and you see what I've done for me. So for example, if someone who has children is able to say, look, I have 3 children or so, and this is how I've been able to balance things. But another person, maybe she's never going to have children, so it might not work. It might not be the same thing. So we have to be very careful when we're mentoring, not to impose our own ideas on people. In fact, I always say that in mentoring, you don't advise. What you do is you explore the options. So let me give you an example. So if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I got 3 jobs, and as my mentor, please, can you help me I don't know what to do. What should I do?" Instead of saying, go with BP or go with Shell or go with this, what you do is, okay, so you have these 3 jobs, 3 offers. What are the pros and cons of working with BP? What are the pros and cons of working with Shell? They list it out. Next thing, when you go through the pros and cons, which one is in line with your values? Do that. And what you're trying to do is get them to start to think for themselves. You don't want them to depend on you, because a mentor, what you do, if you mentor well, your mentee will not depend on you. After a while, you let the mentee go. They're ready to mentor someone else. Get them to, you know where we come from. We like people to just tell us what to do. But really, if you're a good mentor, you get your mentee to start to think think properly, think for themselves. So you go through
I hear you, but how would you say it differs from coaching then? Do you know how it would?
Coaching, you're a coach.
Yeah, because coaching is the principle of coaching is you get people, you ask questions, leading questions, and you get people to then answer those questions themselves.
Okay.
I was thinking, and this is why I am also getting an education here, because my own thought around mentorship was more around it's more kind of like a closer knit relationship. A coach is more very objective on a particular focus. You come and you have that focus on this. But mentoring is almost more lateral in the sense that it cuts across multiple areas of your life. It's not, it's not just this particular thing. And it's more, I would have thought it's more advice from the mentor to the mentee of, this is what worked for me, I don't know if it will work for you, type thing. Would you say?
Well, in the secular, I've come across people who say you advise, but this is the way I mentor, and this is what has worked for me.
Has worked for you.
And I agree with what you said. Mentoring is more holistic. So, for example, like coaching, which I think from what I understand about coaching, you're working towards a specific goal.
A specific goal, yeah.
Okay. So with mentoring, someone will come and say, I need mentoring in the area of my finances. And once you start to mentor, you find out that it's not just the finances, their marriage might come into it, you know, other areas of their lives might come into it. That's why I say it's more holistic than coaching. In fact, what I've also found is that people mix up mentoring with a lot of other things. So coaching, therapy, counseling. Some people say it's mentoring, but it's not. Yeah. But they're all empowering relationships too. So it's not they're not mentoring.
And what is that really in beginning phase of being mentored? What does that look like? Because when you decide, oh, actually, I want a mentor, what should you do and what should you never do?
Well, it's I don't think one size fits all, because I hear people say, some people say never approach, some people say approach. But the only thing I can say is that if you find someone, for example, who you would like them to mentor you, don't go to the person and just say, I want you to be my mentor. I would rather you befriend the person first, and then you can ask, after you develop the relationship, then you now ask, oh, would you be my mentor? And then sometimes if you as a person, you see a lady who you think this lady's probably missing the path, you can approach, but again, you don't say, I want to mentor you. You develop a relationship with her or with him, and then you start to mentor.
So for you, how was your, like, how many mentors do you have currently? And how did you get, you have two, and how did you get into that relationship? Oh wow, let's talk about different sex mentorship. That is interesting.
Now let's talk about the different sexes. Yeah. People always ask that, should a man mentor a woman? But the beauty about what the relationship I have with my male mentor is because he's much older than I am. So it's even more now like a father figure to me. In terms of where, okay, maybe the person is the same age as you, I always say you have to be very careful because of the dynamics. So if you have a male mentor, there's certain things I wouldn't advise you to do. So like talking about your relationships in terms of, oh, if you're married, oh, my husband, this is always that. You have to be very careful, especially because we women, we're very emotional. And if we feel that the man is showing us more attention, then you understand. So I always prefer, personally, I prefer a woman to mentor a woman and a man to mentor a man. But of course, there are instances where you can help. I'm sure you have male mentors, but they have to be boundaries. That's the word I was looking for. There have to be boundaries in that relationship. So you might say, or the man can say, I don't take calls after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever time. And even if you're going to go out for dinner or lunch, you make sure it's in a public space where people will read meaning into it.
That's interesting. And generally, why would you say that? Does everyone need a mentor?
I think so, because first of all, human beings were not created to do life alone. That's the truth. And research has shown that growth and development happens best in a relationship. How would you know that you're growing, Tonbra, if you're not in a relationship? How would you know that you're developing? Just by yourself, you can't. You have to be interacting with people to know that you're actually growing or developing.
I like that.
So that's why it's good to be in a mentoring relationship, intentional mentoring relationship.
That's the key word, intentional, because a lot of times, as you say, people are mentoring others without even realizing that they are being mentored. Is it important to make that transition to making it intentional?
Yeah, I think so. Because if you have to be able to know that this relationship is even working. So it has to be structured. There's the intention, it's deliberate. It's you have to be able to measure the growth and the goals.
Okay.
So one of the things that when you start a proper mentoring relationship, you can set goals. And so what are you trying to achieve in this relationship? What are the goals that you want to achieve? So you set goals. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. So for your mentors now, how did you approach them? I was asking that question, but I got sidetracked. How did you approach them?
I developed the relationship first. and then I asked if they could be my mentor. So one is more of a spiritual mentor. The man is more of a spiritual mentor, but the woman is everything. And like I said, it's holistic. So she's she knows a lot about business. She knows, she's an entrepreneur. She's also a spiritual person. Quite a few, let me see, she's probably about 10, 15 years older than I am. So she has a lot of experience in different areas of life. Yeah.
And that's another question I want to ask around age. Can you have someone that's younger than you as your mentor?
Oh, definitely.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, you can. You see, it's not how old the person is that matters. It's the experience that they have and what you want to gain from that person. Even I don't have a young mentor now, but I get a lot from my mentees, which is another beauty about mentoring. If you are open to learning, because one of the characteristics of a good mentor is that you're open to learning. So you learn from your mentee and your mentee learns from you. So from my mentees, I learned a lot, especially technology. I learned a lot from them. And then because they're out there more than I am, I also get insight about what's going on from them. So yeah, you can get a younger mentor. It doesn't matter.
That's interesting. And what makes a mentee what makes a great mentee?
A great mentee is receptive. He or she is receptive to learning new things, vulnerable, because that's important. Wants to develop a relationship, because sometimes with the mentoring scheme that we run, we always assign mentors to mentees and vice versa. But some relationships don't work, which is understandable. And that's sometimes because you don't take time to, first of all, count the cost. If you want a mentor or mentee, count the cost. You don't, you're not intentional about building a friendship with that person, because that helps. That really helps. But just being open to learning and to receive from the person, that's. But if you're going to ask me about a mentor,
what makes a great mentor?
A great mentor, first of all, I guess both ways should be transparent, because when you open up, it enables your mentee to open up to and to be vulnerable, and then be authentic. That is so important. Be authentic and be relational, which is another important thing. Affirm, because a lot of people have grown up in homes where they were never affirmed. If your mentee is doing well, even if she's not or he's not, just say things like, well done, I know you can do it. In fact, I always say, I believe in you, you're not alone, and you can do it. I believe in you, you're not alone, you can do it. A mentee would love to hear those words, because a lot of us didn't come from homes where we're constantly being affirmed. If you say that to your mentee, they would love to hear that. So be authentic, be relational, affirm, and be a learner yourself. As a mentee, be a learner, and then be a people developer. Be someone who wants to develop. You have to have that at the back. I want to help this person. I want to help Tonbra. I want to help her maximize her potential. I want to help her develop her potential. And then be self-aware. Now, this is so key. And I'll tell you why it's important. Because a lot of us, we say we want to help people. Now, if you do a good mentoring job, your mentee can, so for example, let's say I work in a bank and I'm a branch manager or something, and my mentee is just developing, but I do such a good job that she gets a job somewhere else where she's now maybe a DE or MD or something. I should be so proud of my mentee because she's done good. But if you're not self-aware, when you see your mentee advancing, guess what happens?
Now, yeah.
Tell us what happened. Because you think, but I mentored her. Now how come she's getting all these deals or getting this job? So you have to be self-aware. and also know your weaknesses, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. So a good mentor will do, what's that test called now? You know, what's that? They have different ones that you use to where you know
Strength finders.
Strength finder. Yes. So do that. It's so key to be self-aware. So that you're constantly monitoring even your feelings when you're talking to. It's so important. Yeah. And then I think a good mentor should also practice servant leadership where you want to serve. So yeah.
Servant leadership when you want to serve. Oh, that's interesting. I really, really like this. And I'm going to ask a question.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
When I talked about servant leadership, let me explain that. Okay. So some mentors, they make you feel like I'm doing you a favor. And I must admit that there was a time I used to feel like that. So when I'm assigned a mentee and the mentee doesn't turn up, or they're not working on their goals, I used to feel, well, you're the one that wanted a mentor. So please, okay, if you don't want, that's it. But it was only after I developed myself more and I also went to do a master's in mentoring that I realized that I got it all wrong. I'm not doing them a favor. I'm actually, if I'm a good mentor, I'm actually helping them. And if I'm practicing servant leadership, oh my goodness, I should be serving.
And what is the expectation around the? I'm looking for the word here, but I can't quite. The length of time someone should mentor you. Is it a lifetime commitment? What's the commitment like? Is this do you have the conversation up front and say, I'm going to mentor you for 3 years or 4 years?
I think if your mentoring relationship is a formal one, it's good to have that conversation. So for example, the mentoring scheme that we run, we say minimum 6 months. And we'll monitor it for 6 months, but anything after 6 months, then it's up to. But I know people do a year. But what you find is, especially once the goals have been achieved, and remember I also said, what you want to do is get your mentee to a place where they start to mentor other people. But if you've done a good job as a mentor, you'll find out that you don't meet for as often as possible, but you guys become friends. And you still see them year in, year out. Yeah. So it's up to you guys define how long, or you decide how long you want the mentoring relationship to last.
And obviously, you decide also the parameters in terms of how many times you guys meet up and stuff like that.
So what you do the first meetup is assessment, so to speak, where you find out about the mentee, you tell her or him about yourself, and then you guys the first one, you don't go, the first meetup, you don't go and start to talk about goals. You get to know them. That is if you haven't developed a relationship before. But find out things about them. What do they want from the relationship? What can you give? And it's at that point that you talk about confidentiality. That's with the mentoring scheme that we run, for example, we actually get each mentee to sign a confidentiality form, and the mentors to sign a confidentiality form to say that whatever we say in this relationship stays here. And of course, you give them the exceptions if I know you're going to harm yourself and all this sort of stuff. So it's good. So you do that. Talk about boundaries. So things like, I can't meet up on weekends, I'm sorry, because of my kids. I don't accept calls after 9 o'clock. Just talk about things. And all these things, it's good to do them at the beginning so as to manage expectations. Because one of the reasons why mentoring relationships don't work out is because you're not able to manage the expectations of people. It's so important to talk about these things at the beginning. And then you now go on to what you want to achieve from this relationship.
Oh, that's good. My own personal experience for mentoring is I for the longest time, I think I was one of those people who probably had mentors but not realized that I had mentors. Well, maybe there was just not intentionality in the relationship. I just knew there were people that I looked up to, maybe that I'll get advice every now and then. But it was only until I think about last year actually that for the very first time I actually said, this is my mentor. I entered into that relationship, like you're mentoring me and I'm being mentored. And I found it to be very interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. Because I'm a bit of a wild card. I'm a renegade. I just do what I want to do. And then someone is like, oh, I think this is a good way to do it. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll try it out. I found it to be hugely beneficial, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Hugely beneficial, just from the point of view that, I feel guided. I feel like, I can always rely on this person to guide and give me objective insights into the decisions and the things that I'm making. And I feel very inspired as well by my mentor. Like, she's doing all these amazing things, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I feel very fired up. So I think for me, inspiration is a huge one for mentorship.
Yeah.
So I don't know, these ones that you guys kind of hook up mechanically almost, does that lose that inspiration?
No, but don't forget that we have 8 weeks group mentoring, where everybody comes together for 8 weeks. We meet every Tuesday. And then it is at the end of that 8 weeks that people are assigned. In fact, what we do is we give them a form to fill. What area do you want to be mentored in? We give them the options of picking 3 mentors, but only one will be. Even though we say your preferred mentor, you might not be able to get a preferred mentor. But they would have developed at least some form of relationship in 8 weeks before they get. So it's not just they're just assigned with this person that you've never met before. But you're right, inspiration is key. It's always good to get a mentor that will inspire you.
And you look up to.
Yeah.
You look up to. And how would you say this helps on the journey of being created for more? Like just being able to get that more on the inside of you out. How would you say mentorship plays a part in that dynamic?
I think mentorship helps you to see further than you can imagine. Because if you see someone who's gone ahead of you, automatically you think, if she can do it, I can as well. Yes. And even though the road may look difficult, but then your mentor is pointing in the right directions and saying, I know it looks difficult, but I will guide you, I will help you. And yeah.
That's it. And I want you to, just as we close, speak to somebody who is listening, who has not been in an intentional mentoring relationship, doesn't mentor anybody because they feel they have nothing to give. Speak to them on what you feel they should be doing after listening to this podcast.
Okay, like I said, we were all created to be in relationships. Now the challenge is that a lot of us don't. We want mentors, really. We want people to come alongside us, but we don't know how to do it. But if you, for example, you're a person who that you have a lot that you want to give, God has blessed you with gifts and talents, the easiest way to get into a mentoring relationship is just to find the closest person to you and just develop a relationship first and then speak to them about mentoring them. But you see, mentoring is so beneficial because it's, remember I talked about at the beginning, I said that we all have potential. It may be in seed form. Imagine what it would be like for you to come alongside someone and start to water that seed with your words of affirmation or encouragement, or just simply being there for them. And then you see that plant grow and bloom. And you help this person. It gives you that satisfaction of knowing that I was instrumental in become more.
So good. Thank you so much. This has been so insightful. Guys, you've heard it. You need to be in an intentional mentoring relationship. Either you're being mentored yourself or you're mentoring somebody. That's how we make the world a better place. You pour into somebody else out of what you've been poured into. So thank you so much, Pastor Funke. Such a great conversation, very enlightening, and it's been super awesome. Thank you so much for being here. All right then, bye guys. Thank you.
Bye.